A question has arose right now about the event for Saturday, about someone being able to record it, or not someone being able, but us being able to record it. It's literally like a gathering at my house, right? And so I imagine that if there's like discussions, like it'll be like discussions over here, discussion over there, like breakout groups, but they'll also be like kind of like main discussions and topics. And so I'm thinking of maybe trying to record it for people who can't arrive, like record it like audibly and not necessarily visually. My biggest concern is the breakout room part, just people being able to spread out and have like kind of like one-on-one conversations, especially because we're talking about money and it could be a little personal and stuff like that. Um, what do you think? I'm honestly kind of like opposed to like trying to record it, just because of all of the complications that might arise. Because it's not like, honestly, it may even be like 15 people or more. Um, and so it could be a thing where it's just like really hard to catch everything.
What is going to be? Are you using Zoom or Google Meet?
Um, we haven't decided even if we're gonna do it, but I imagine if we do it, it'll most likely be Zoom over Google Meet.
Okay. I can definitely see it as an audio only, um, or if you wanted it to be that way.
Mhm.
But you're right about the Google Meet part, how that would display, unless you would have something on hand or like an audio visual that would say, at this moment, we will have the guest talk over or have the guest meeting or have the something like that.
Mhm.
But if it is multiple, I've never seen that before. Um, but I think it is possible.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's possible too. And that's why I just put in this group. I said it's possible. I don't think it's ideal, but I think it is possible to just be like, hey, like we're gonna like walk around. Like I could even my mom immediately starts going to the gimbal with my phone and just saying like we can like record it like that. Um to the best of our ability, but it does create a space where somebody has to be kind of designated to do that. Whereas in the other part with the laptop is that I do have a table, but we won't be like at the table, right? It'll be like all around the living room, really, right? So it won't necessarily be the best space to, just see. Just like this one is like pretty good, but and then we're pretty close, right? But then what if someone's in the kitchen? We got, you're like, okay, she's talking, he's talking. Okay, now someone's over by, the window, and we gotta, it might be pretty hard to like hear some people too, especially yeah, if there is we're using the whole space.
what time would it start again? What time will it start?
5. 5 is the start time, and then 5:30 is the official start time. So we'll eat and snack and stuff like that around that time.
I can't think of anything around it. Specifically, unless you have like a second audio person.
Right. Right. I know. No. But again, it's 3 of us, so I'm open to their suggestions first. Right.
Bobby is online.
Okay. Morning, Bobby.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late.
It's all good. How are you
Hey,
feeling?
Bob. I didn't hear you. What was that?
How are you feeling?
Not the greatest, but I started to come into the office, so I decided just to go into a different. I'm not in my normal office. I just went into another one so I can kind of be secluded and not spread anything.
Right. That's good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're still waiting on other folks to show up, and then the speaker, she'll probably be here around 9:30, 9:45. Cool. Any updates, anything you've been up to, things going on over there?
It's always something going on. It's always something going on. It's been some good stuff, but definitely I'm grateful to not be in Miss Thibodeau's shoes. I hope she's doing better with everything that she had going on.
Right. That was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot. I don't know. Yeah, I hope that she logs on today. But we'll see.
Absolutely.
Did you guys get the text message I sent yesterday with the
Book recommendation?
yeah.
Yeah, I had it. I received it. I didn't have a chance to actually look at it. It was a crazy busy day yesterday too, but I did see it, and I read a little bit of it. It was you were saying something about it's on a lot about business specifically.
This one honestly not so much as it's the first one is all about habits and just having I would say developing certain consistency around what you have to do regularly for the business, but also for anything in your life, honestly. And so it just talks about a lot about setting yourself up, setting your environment up, setting your schedule up, such that you could do what you want to do with the most ease. And so that's been really good. And then the other one, Get That Money Honey, is about different ways to fundraise. And so it does talk a little bit about grant writing, but it also does talk about connecting and courting funders, so like developing those relationships. It talks about individual donor base too, so like kind of like setting up a platform, getting your message out there. But it also, what I like too, is it talks about our relationship with money and like how comfortable or uncomfortable money feels. And that can, of course, impact how much we ask for, how often we ask for money. And then even that, if you will, statement in itself is like, are we asking for money or do we have another way of looking at what we're doing? You know, some people look at it as begging, right? And some people also can look at it like, well, I'm actually giving them an opportunity to partake how they can in some work that they actually are passionate about, you know, themselves. And so,
You're framing it.
yeah, right. And so she does talk a lot about that. But what I like is that it's a whole book about fundraising where, you know, it could just be, you know, a podcast or something, but she does talk about it in a number of different ways, board of directors, discussions. And that's actually what our speaker's going to talk to us a little bit about today is the importance of having a board of directors, the importance of having a system by which you bring people in as well as let people go too, so that the board of directors is kind of operating at its height, you know. So you kind of say, hey, you know, or that's what she talks about in there, like having some type of plan as to, okay, what people agree to do, and then what people, you know, what allows people to kind of be funneled out and stuff too. But again, stuff that I haven't heard before. And so she definitely goes in depth in that, so it's some good information.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hello, Bobby.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about your past experience at Level Up. We just want to get a little bit about what you were thinking, just testimonials. So if you want to give a description of how you feel about Level Up and the whole program.
So I missed the first part, but I did hear like about the end part about testimonials about Level Up in the program. What was the first part?
The first part is just giving a small but thorough description about how you feel about Level Up, the Level Up program.
Okay. And then when did you want that by?
It doesn't have to be typed. You can just talk about it right now, and we'll have it on record.
Let me. My brain is like I'm still kind of cloudy from being ill. I don't want to. I'd rather give it some thought.
Okay.
And then I don't know if it'll be at the next meeting or maybe I'll just it might be easier for me to write it out. But it's just like you're saying, like a testimonial, like about the Level Up program and just a few sentences. Is that what you're looking for, or a sentence?
Just a few sentences to a paragraph, specifically talking about how the cohort has been treating you, what you have learned, what you also have learned at the last cohort, and the past ones specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let me get that back to you because I'm still, like I said, brain's a little cloudy and foggy, and would like to give a good one instead of a good testimonial instead of like with clouded thoughts.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure thing. Yeah, I also haven't had any coffee or anything this morning or eaten, so I'm operating at like low capacity. And also just to let everybody know too, before we get started, I have some things that may pull me away today. So I will be as present as possible. But if I go off camera a little bit, it's just and I'm not answering for a few minutes. That's just to let you know.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. And did you get the text message too yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What I'm recognizing, what I was telling Naya yesterday is I'll just try to send out as much information and try to develop conversation in different. There's the Facebook group, there's texting, there's emails, and I just know that some people, are gonna get the emails, some might get the text, some might get the Facebook stuff. But just try to get it all out there in different ways, just so that we can all kind of receive it however we can.
Okay.
I think that's how it works with social media. Oftentimes you'll see a post here, and then you go to Instagram, you see it over there, and then you see it again on Facebook. And then eventually go, okay, let me see what they talk about. And so that'll be a way for us to stay in the same page. What I ultimately want to do is have it to where we are kind of having an ongoing conversation throughout the week. In weeks, and so that'll help just to kind of constantly send out the things that are on my mind or things that I just read or just heard about. So it'll be good. How are things going with the looking for the facility?
I've been trying to see can I partner with someone on it. Tell you the
Mhm.
truth, I've been so busy, I ain't been at it, but I have a friend, so he knows a guy with warehouse spaces in the Bay.
Mhm.
So we're gonna check into that. And then my cousin is James Caldwell. He works a lot with the mayor.
Mm.
So we're gonna try to see if they have any empty spaces that the city may own,
Mhm.
so that we might be able to get in on.
Right.
So that's the way I want to go, because man, these leases are crazy.
Oh, I bet.
Man,
I bet.
you got to get like the Spanish brothers and sisters and get 10 people in there and split it all down.
Right.
Man, it's so hell.
Right. I can imagine.
Yeah, so that's what I've been looking into. What I'm setting up those meetings now.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I got a lot of buddies. They like, come on, man. They trying to get me to Oakland. Like, come on, T.
Oh,
We got a building. Come look at this building. You could have been in a building right there. My buddy called me all the time.
Uh-huh.
We need some skills over here. Get in. Grant everything right now.
Right. Oh, hilarious. Oh man, no, that's funny. Space is a thing. I remember I was going to a church in Emeryville, and space was an issue. It probably still is, but it was an issue up until about a couple years ago, and it's been an issue for literally about 10 or so years. Just trying to find a space that is that works, that is affordable. They managed to get a space, but they would actually have to like rent it out, like each Sunday, and then they were able to get a space where they could like be there, but they couldn't be there indefinitely. It was like a year's time, and then they had to get out of that space. And it just seems like it's just always been a struggle for them. And so I know that finding space, now they're in El Cerrito, and I feel like it's a good space, but now churches are struggling because of everybody so used to not going to church with COVID in the pandemic. And so now they're like, we have space, and now we got to find people again to get interested in coming back to church, because everybody's used to staying home and watching it on YouTube or something, or not watching it on YouTube. And so it's spaces are limited. Yeah.
Really?
Complicated.
That's why out of these churches partner with other churches, like you say, to lease it out to them, try to balance.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, right.
I saw some on Channel 2 News last night, a nonprofit in Oakland.
Mhm.
Yeah, speaking on that right there, had to leave a space they've been in like 12 years.
Mhm.
He said got outrageous and the lady husband passed away and he was a grant writer and knew how to get the money and now they talking about getting them out of the space.
Mm-hmm.
So they started a GoFundMe page trying
Right,
to help
right.
her out, trying to keep the program going.
Mm-hmm. And it was the news. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good opportunity to be able to get it out to everybody.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they say she's been feeding a lot of people in Oakland for
Mhm.
years now.
Right, right.
Cut this thing back.
Very interesting. I hope that people are make it. Let me and else at least. This week. Alexa? And is this the one that we're gonna use mostly?
Yes. I will see about the SD card that I'm using for this one is 8 GB. I'm using the 64 for the Zoom and the 128 for the Zoom.
Okay. Okay, so that will that be the main one?
This will be the main.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully she'll be here in just a minute. So what I do want to share is a little bit about how we connected, and then two, where exactly, what she's going to be discussing and so forth. And so I actually met her when we were both just getting out there. I was actually at a church in which we were interested in developing a program around I would say combating human trafficking. Mm-hmm. And when we were doing that, we were just developing kind of like a ministry and kind of like what activities it'll be composed of course. So it'll be somewhat like program design. So one thing that we were both doing was going out and hitting up International Boulevard, where a lot of the what do you want to call? I want to call it prostitution, but I also want to say, some people call it sex work, was happening. So it was like between, say, 47 all the way, and I would say 47th and High Street. That's about maybe like a 7 or 6 block radius. But then it would also tailor out all throughout, all the way down to like 10th Street. And so, or maybe even 5th or so. And so we were going out there, and what I was trying to do was find other churches, other folks that would be interested in similar work. And she was going to Faith Fellowship in San Leandro. I think it was probably San Lorenzo, actually, at that time. And so she was interested, and we were both talking about different ways that we can do demonstrations or do other type of things that kind of complement the work that we're already trying to do with just getting out there. So at first it was like, we can pray for folks. Then it was like, oh, we should actually maybe give them like care packages, give them things that help keep the clean, give them things that will, help them stay warm, whatever it is that we could do. And so in time, it got dangerous. And so in time, it got really dangerous. Okay. And my church in particular was like, we got to do something else. In essence, they were like, we got to stop. But they were really thinking, we got to do something else because we don't want to put you all in too much danger when you're going out there. And part of me though, honestly, I was more of the attitude of like, well, some things are just dangerous. Like we gotta do some dangerous things sometimes, whatever. Let's just get strategic about it, get smarter about it, have plans, have backups, whatever we need to do. But at the end of the day, while our church had basically stopped doing that type of work, what she began to do is get a lot of support and funding at her job. And so what I recognized when I looked up her bio is it actually said that she was doing a class, and one of the young ladies in her class had been abducted and started being sexually trafficked. And that's what drew her attention to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, I would say, if you will, intimately involved from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last number of years, we've talked about it, she's gone from having, if you will, one or two programs in an effort to minister to the girls that have been abducted and that are being used on the streets and stuff, to finding and funding safe houses.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do want to leave, that they can actually put them in a place where it would be safe to kind of like restart their lives and get into a different lifestyle. And then I would say as that has begun, it has also evolved too, because what began to become clear is that it's not as simple for someone to want to get out of the lifestyle. It's not as simple as for someone to get out of the lifestyle and not be brought back into it because of people knowing where they're at, knowing how to find them, knowing where their families stay or their friends are and stuff like that. And it's having eyes on the street, people having those, having that ability to be like, oh, I just saw what's the name over here, you want me to get her? We could get her right now, so stuff like that began to come up. And so what she let us know is that it's developed in a number of ways to address not only the girls who are being brought in to sex trafficking, but also the men too that are doing the work, right? That are out there, I would say pimping for lack of better terms. And so what's come up is the need to shape culture in a different way, to have to connect folks to the resources. And she's even mentioned what also comes up is ministering to the homeless population, because a lot of the homeless folks are the ones that are out there also, the Johns and so forth that are out there. And so, she said, when I first started, I had one idea of how things were going to go. And one thing that I was trying to do, and she said, it feels like God just keeps being like, I was looking over here and I think you should do something. And so she's just kind of having to go with the flow of just like figuring out, one, where God is leading her, but then two, what exactly she's going to do and how she's going to accomplish it. It looks like we have someone. And so with that being said, it definitely looks like, again, that there's a number of folks who, hey, there's Vanessa there. Hey, Vanessa.
Hi there. How's
it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hello.
It looks like we are totally in separate locations. How's it going on your end?
Doing well. Yeah.
Good.
Excited to be here with you all.
Awesome. And so I was actually just giving them a little bit of background, about yourself, about one, how we connected, what we were up to. But then two, I was just letting them know again the numerous ways in which you had to expand also in ways that you weren't necessarily planning to when when things got going.
Yes, and it goes on and on.
Right. And so with that being said, I didn't want them to, I did kind of create a space for you to jump in. But yeah, at this point, I was just letting them know that you're also going to the direction of connecting with the men, but not just the men in general, but the men that are homeless, the men that are out there that may be, again, partaking in this industry, so to speak, in creating some of the issues for the girls that want to be safe out there. And so if you want to pick there at all, that would be great. But yeah, that's where I was just landing right there.
Okay, great. Well, I thank you so much, and I apologize. I thought I was to join at 9:45, so I thought I'm sorry if I'm late. I didn't think I was supposed to be joining beforehand. So, in any case, a lot has been going on. 12 years in, actually got prepared a little slide for you, but I'll just talk us through it here, and then I do have some slides that I'll bring up that as we dig into our topic. But yeah, I've been doing this for 12 years. My background is in tech, and worked in the tech industry now for I'm still in the tech industry, and I'll explain that later. But in a new way, but been working in tech for almost 30 years. And in half of that time, I was teaching, actually 3/4 of that time, I was teaching inner city kids dance. And one of my dance students in 2010 was raped in the city of Hayward and then sold throughout California for a year. And that was why I started, Love Never Fails. And I know Jermaine because we were out being crazy people in the city of Oakland, picking up exploited girls and returning them home to Fresno and different places, and being real wild and crazy there in the early days. We've calmed down a little bit. So we really started this was just a work of love. I mean, all the way of just seeing people's pain, being out there, and trying to meet people where they were, and very grassroots. Started, didn't really raise very much funding as a nonprofit for the first 4 or 5 years. Everything was volunteerism. I didn't collect a paycheck until the last half of the organization. The first half, wasn't a paid ED. And again, labor of love. But we have graduated. We've grown up. I would say we're kind of we're a little past being a teenager now. I'd say we're like a TAY organization, and growing. And so I was super humbled that Jermaine asked me to be here with you. I will put the caveat out there that I'm prepared to share my personal experiences and my insight, but I'm by no means like an expert at, nonprofits. I just can tell you how I've been running our organization. And I do want to say we have, so I left my high tech job in 2018 to do this, 2018, to do this full time, because I really felt like after 8 years of doing this, both of them at the same time, that I just felt very strongly that I could make a bigger impact to the world if I would dedicate myself to this. So I did walk away from a very nice paycheck. So I'm missing my Louis Vuitton shoes, my red bottom shoes, and all my little fancy trips. But every single person that I meet and I get to spend time with is absolutely worth that to me. And I've been doing LNF, and then also was recruited by Merritt College to come on as a cybersecurity professor as part of our Love Never Fails program, which I can explain to you if you want to learn more about that. But so I'm doing both of those so that when students are enrolled in our IT Biz Tech Academy, which is part of one of those programs that we offer to survivors and other vulnerable community members, they can get college credit for me teaching, being in one of our classes. So that's kind of why I accepted that engagement. But in any case, we've been able to move from, at the time when I left Cisco, I was working at Cisco Systems. At the time that I left in 2018, our budget was right around $500,000 a year. And now our budget is 3.2 million. So that just gives you an idea of, I just wanted to share that not to, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I wanted to share it because I wanted you to hear that that's kind of the lens that I'll be sharing things with you. And again, this is like a work in progress and I'm still learning every single day. And so, yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And, again, thank you so much, Jermaine, for inviting me to be with all of you and hear all the wonderful things that you are doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. So one, what I'm actually wondering, Naya, would it be good if we could connect the TV to the laptop, and that way it can be easy for both of us to see like from the table, just like with the HDMI? Would that be?
We can try it, but I can't make any guarantees that
Okay.
that will work.
Okay.
Do you want to like a 10-minute break or 5 minute?
Just a second. I have that HDMI already. If we want to just give it a shot, I'm thinking again it can connect to the
I'll stand by.
Okay. Yeah. Vanessa, can you talk and let's see if the audio works?
Yeah, I'm here, Vanessa. Happy to be here.
Awesome.
It works. Okay. Yay.
All right. So let me get over here. And then also, and do you have any slides that you want to share and stuff like that?
I do. So you want me to just share those out?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. And sorry. Share. Show your entire screen. And
Wait.
can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so just let me know when you want me to get going.
No, the floor is yours.
Okay. So
Mhm.
one thing I did want to mention, and I think Jermaine did before I start my slides, he did mention earlier, but I wanted to make sure you're aware that we provide programming for both survivors of human trafficking and pretty much anyone who's vulnerable across the spectrum. So we have a home for previously incarcerated men, a home for homeless men. We have a home for trafficked women, trafficked youth, trafficked women with their children. So, and really my passion before we get started is to help underserved, under-resourced people of all types. So some people are here and they're from other countries and they can't work because of that. Some people are here and they have generational trauma and they're having a difficult time in their life, and I want to be of service to them. Some people are experiencing racial bias, gender bias, gender identity bias, whatever it is. For me, I'm just really strong believer that everybody has the right to safety and has the right to learn and has the right to live in freedom. And so that's just we're going to be talking about things like diversity today, and we're going to be talking about things like cultural, like what is the culture of your organization, and you'll just kind of know that that's the lens that I'm coming in with from this perspective of valuing all people. I don't always agree with everybody, but believe it or not, I actually am in community with people who are registered sex offenders. I'm in community with people that are previous traffickers. I'm in community with different types of folks. And I'm not, somebody who's like sling them up on a stake somewhere and kill them off. That's you're not going to get that from me. And so if there are things that you want to talk about as it relates to diversity, I hope this could be a safe place for us to have that discussion. I'm also not into witch hunts. So again, if you feel really strongly about something, I'll just say I don't agree, but I'm not going to not like you or, want to hang up because you said something that I didn't agree with. And I think that is really the foundation of creating diverse spaces and safe spaces for everybody to kind of learn and grow. So wanted to just say that up front. And I would love to take a moment before I get into my slides. It's really important that I know who's here in the room. So maybe you guys could do some introductions, and then that'll help me as I kind of pepper in the insights that I have for you today.
Sweet. So just for the sake of, well, I want to say we could pass it to Terrence first, and then if Candy, if you're there, and then we could go to Bobby as well.
Okay.
Hi, Vanessa. Nice meeting you. Proud of your work and thanks for what you do for the community. My name is Terrence Silas. I'm formerly a furniture and automobile upholstery business owner. Through injury, through COVID, I went out on my for-profit business, got in a bad car accident, had a few accidents, and I was trying to reinvent myself. And my daughter gave me an idea. She said, "Dad, what about the nonprofit? It's just sitting here." We had a nonprofit that was dormant for a little while. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try to pass my skills on to the youth, because I also work with violence prevention in Bakery Hunters Point, District 10. And so I'm like, I want to create something where I could pass my skills forward, which my mentor encouraged me to do as far as furniture and auto upholstery, but I'm also a designer. Through my sewing skills, I learned how to produce and design all kinds of stuff like purses, handbags, coats, jackets, hats. I learned how, because I know how to sew. And so it's just developing that. And right now we're just looking for a warehouse space and trying to bring it to fruition. And Level Up is giving me the encouragement and the strength to just keep moving forward and get this venture off the ground and running.
Nice. Love it. Nice to meet you, Terrence.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And then you said Candy after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You there? Let's see if she can hop on. Let us know if you can hop on, Candy. If not, we can head over to Bobby. Let's see. All right, let us know, Bobby, if you could introduce yourself too.
Sure thing. Everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Hello, Vanessa. My name is Bobby Jones Hanley. I'm the founder of Pier One. We're a national online reentry support network and resource hub for people who are formerly incarcerated as they're coming out of prisons and jail systems, helping connect them to the resource providers and a community support network to be able to help them in their transition back into society. For complete transparency, I myself am formerly incarcerated. Most of my team, pretty much actually all of our team, we're all formerly incarcerated, except for some of the volunteers that work with us and interns. I was telling Jermaine last week when he was telling us about you coming. I had come across like your work last week. It was like the day or 2 days before, and I don't remember how, because I've been doing a bunch of research and doing some other things. But I came across your stuff, and I started watching a couple of the little videos. So I was like, oh, that's somebody I definitely like to connect with. So when you told me that you were here and what you were doing, I was like, that's awesome. We also just got one of our first. We're in our, I would say, our infancy stage. We officially launched in January 20th.
Nice.
And we've had so we're almost, actually 2 days will be 1 year old. And what we do is we leverage technology, collaborations with industry leaders, and the lived experience of people who are formerly incarcerated. And we just landed one of our, it's not huge, but one of our biggest grants, specifically working with youth who are at risk with a youth empowerment program.
Nice. Wow. So cool. We have a lot to talk about. So we'll have to chat offline. Yeah. Good.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Okay. And did we get Candy back with us?
Candy, are you there?
And then I also just want to say one thing real quick. I'm actually, excuse me, I started work a little bit late, or I got into the office a little bit late. So I'm eating. Candy's throwing a thumbs up, so she's back on. I'm eating, so I'm offline. I just didn't want to be rude, like, and just not be here. But so I am here. I just don't want everybody to see me eating while it's going on.
No problem. Thank you for saying that.
All right.
Candy, you there?
Yeah, I don't know if you can talk, Candy. But if not, that's cool. But yeah, glad that you are here. Okay, so yeah, she most likely is.
So it's the three of us, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you know what Candy? I just so I can make sure I make this relevant. Do you know what Candy's nonprofit does? Can you tell me?
Good morning, guys. How are you guys?
Oh, there she is. Yay.
I'm listening. I'm just here at work and we've been activated. But anyway, so my name is Tamika. I can't change my name, so I tried because Candy is so not professional. But anyways, my nonprofit name is Necessary Essentials of Life. We provide resources and services throughout the Bay Area, even though we're based in San Francisco. And I'm happy to be here. Was there a question I was supposed to check in about?
Yeah. Just what does your nonprofit do? It's Necessary Essentials of Life. Do you provide what kind of products?
So we do like classes, workshops, sometimes we run events pertaining to career readiness, career pathways, financial literacy, preventative health, health and wellness. We also do an auto maintenance and safety course and teach individuals about just the basic maintenance of your vehicle and changing a tire and how to escape a vehicle in an emergency situation. We do a whole bunch of things, but that's just the basic of everything as of now.
And how long have you been in place?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Great. Excellent. Okay, that helps me, guys. So we're going to go ahead and dive in to first we're going to just make sure that we go over. So we already talked about who we are and what we've done. So we have 2 topics that we're going over today, and just making sure time check wise, Jermaine, I want to make sure I have this right. I have until noon, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to talk about board development. We're going to talk about it from a lens of culture and diversity. I'm going to kind of really work more on that today as it relates to board development. And then we're also going to talk about your fundraising strategy. And we have a couple hours to dig into this. So we're going to have some exercises that I'm going to ask you guys to do. I will be popping some assessments in the chat that you could bring up, and you will need to have a notepad available to you to kind of make note of your answers to some of those assessments. And so just want to give you a heads up about that, and I'll give you a few minutes to work on those things or just review them, and then we can talk about them. But and then I'm also going to give you a few templates, and we'll talk a little bit about those templates, which you can use maybe as homework as you begin to create your own fundraising strategy. So I'm going to assume that everyone here, and by the way, if you want to interrupt me at any time, feel free. If you you can pop in the chat, or you can just kind of say I have a question, and then I'll come off the slides. And
Okay.
I will stop from time to time. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask, because there are, just with Terrence here being in person, is there something that you can send on in the chat that we can possibly print here
Sure.
for him to be able to do that?
Let me do that right now. So hold on. I'll send you guys, I'll put it in the chat now so that you can print it while we're going through it. One. There it is. Nope. Okay, so this is one of them. And then there's another one. Where's that? Uh-oh. Okay, so this is not the one that we're going to talk through this one, but I thought I had. Well, okay. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. Cultural. Sorry. All right. Well, I guess I did not. Okay. Downloads. There it is. There it is. Okay. Let me send this to you really quickly. I am going to. Yes. Should I email this to you, or
Yeah, email.
I can just send you the link in the chat too. I'll just send you the link in the chat.
Okay. Cool.
Unless you want me to email it to you, I can do that as well. Because you can
Yeah, that'll allow me to
share it.
Yeah.
Okay. So here it is in the chat, and that's something we're going to be going over, and then I will email this to you. Cultural assessment. That we're going to spend some time with this. So I'll send it to you in email. I just sent it to you as an email as well. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's later on, not just yet, but
Right.
that'll be good to get that printed out. All right. So let me go back and. All right. Here we go. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to assume that everyone here is done with your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, your IRS determination letters. You got all that good stuff. Want to make sure you know this is just fundamentals. Board of directors can be between 3 and 14. Well, actually, the IRS doesn't have a cap on the number of people you can have on your board of directors, but the highest number that sort of is generally recommended is 14. Love Never Fails has 9 seats. We've only filled 7 of them at just in our lifetime, right? Since over the last 12 years, we've only filled 7 of them, and that's sort of on purpose. We find that having a smaller board has its benefits, and I'll explain that. We actually use an advisory board to get more people involved in our mission, but we use the elected board, which is the board of directors. That those individuals, obviously, all of us have fiscal responsibility, and so that's where the decisions are made. And it's a little bit easier to have a smaller group of people. It's easier to draw a quorum, which is, I'm sure everyone here knows, that having a majority present in your quarterly or monthly or whatever your meeting times are. So having the ability to reach a quorum is really difficult. When you have 14 board members, you have to have at least 8 people there. Versus if you have 6 board members, if you have 4 people there, you have a quorum. And so just a little bit of thought on that as you think about growing your board. Let me ask you, how many board members do you guys have? If you could just kind of speak it out. Terrence, how many board members do you have?
We working on that. I don't have none yet.
Okay, none. Okay. How many do you have, Tamika?
Four. I was trying to look for the chat box, but I don't see it to put in the chat, but I have 4.
4. Okay, great. And Bobby, how many do you have? In the middle of your bite.
I know he once shared that he doesn't have, because of the fiscal sponsorship, he doesn't have a board, but he does have advisors.
I see.
I don't have the number, but I'm sure he'll clarify as soon as he can.
Okay. Well, that's helpful actually to know that he has a fiscal sponsor. So when you have a fiscal sponsor, you're leveraging their elected board. And it's good to start formulating your own board so that you can, take over that fiscal sponsorship long term. But that's good to know. That's actually really helpful. So in Bobby's case, we still need to do the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, and get the IRS determination letter, probably most likely. I don't think that's what you wanted me to focus on, Jermaine, so I didn't spend too much time on that, but I will tell you that I have a consultant that I refer everybody I meet to that wants to establish a nonprofit, and he's amazing. His name is Daryl. DH Ventures is the name of his company, and I've been working with him since I started, and he charges $950 or $1,000 to do all of that for you, and he does it in lightning speed. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know, and I can get you connected to him. So all of that is excellent, and is important. And so you have to have that as a foundation as you're thinking about creating your board. But it's really good that you're thinking about these things that we're going to talk about today now as you're forming your board. And so some of the things that you want to do as you're thinking about your board of directors, you have to have a minimum of 3 board members. The president, the vice president, the president, the treasurer, the secretary, and the vice president. So that's 4. You can combine. Some people combine the secretary with the treasurer to come up with 3. 3 is the minimum number of board members that you need on a nonprofit. And with those 4 roles intact. So vice president, not a must-have. You must have a treasurer, a secretary, and a president. Okay. And then the rest of the board members, if you kind of go up to 14 or 10 or 9 or whatever it is, each of the rest of the board members, they don't have a title. They're a board of director. So there's the 4 roles that are reserved for those individuals, and then the rest are just members of the board of directors. It's some best practices that you probably want to think about is having some job descriptions for your board members. And I have one that is more generic, which I was going to share with you if I had it, but it looks like, okay, of course it crashed right before we started. So everything that I had all these nice things lined up for you. They dropped out, but I can send you my board of directors generic job description, which basically just says, these are the kinds of things that you're responsible for generically. It is a 3-year term to be on our board. You are expected to donate $1,000 a year as a board member, and you are expected to participate in one of our committees. And so it's kind of generically sets those expectations. I wanted to let you know, however, something that's really important to be aware of is your first board is going to be your yes board. Okay. So, yes boards are close friends. They're partners, people that you've known your whole life that are like, believe in you, believe in your vision. They're going to kind of deal with you not knowing what you're doing. Okay. Because they love you. Right. And they're not going to judge you, and they're going to be there for you, and they're going to help you get it together. Right. And so just accept that your first 3 years, you're going to have a yes board. And that's probably a good thing. You could set the term for your yes board shorter. And the reason why you want to kind of start to gravitate away from a purely yes board is because people who say no force you to grow. Okay. So yes boards make it comfortable. They help you learn. You feel supported, but you probably are going to be doing things the way you would always do them because you and your friends both function the same way. Right. But when you get somebody in there and they go, hey, have you considered, and if you're not ready to hear the brainstorm of somebody, you might take it as it's a criticism. You might take it as they're not being supportive. They're not helping you get through something. But those are the kinds of people that you want to have in your organization. A quick little story. I just hired a development manager. I've never had a development manager since I've started. I've been the development person, the fundraiser, right? I actually hired someone last year, and she's doing amazing. Oh, but guess what? She gets on my nerves. Okay, because she's always messing up everything I have set up. But the beauty of it is I am self-aware, and I know that I like, I'm a little bit of a control freak. So I like things to go a certain kind of way. And I know that I need to back off. So I'm constantly saying, hey, she's doing a great job. Get out of her way. Let her do what she needs to do. Oh, maybe there's a different way of looking at this. Maybe there's a different way of being. Maybe let's try something new. And, and I have my little barriers where like, no, you can't get too far off. Right. But I'm pushing myself to grow. I'm 12 years into this. If you would have put that person in my way 12 years ago, it never would have worked, because she would have been moving too fast. She would have been interjecting with all these different ideas. It would have been overwhelming to me. And I would have never had a chance to kind of get my bearings, so to speak. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you have your yes board, and then you slowly migrate towards a board. Not, you don't want a no board either, but you want a board that knows how to tell you no so that you can grow. Okay. And so there's that. So you want these descriptions to help everybody to understand what their roles are. And I mentioned the yes and the no board because your yes board, your early board, your first 3 years, you're not going to maybe ask them to give $1,000 a year. Maybe they don't have that kind of money just yet. These are your friends, your family. Maybe they're, you know, they're going to be there, support you, but they don't have that. So maybe you do something different. Clearly they're going to need to be the kind of people that roll up their sleeves and get to work with you, right? Common goal, common cause. So you might be a little bit less, have your expectations set a little bit lower for them. As you progress, you want to get people that will invest in what you're doing. When you bring a board member on, and again, this isn't your yes board because you're figuring it out, but as you progress, when you meet new people and you're like, would you like to join my board? You don't just pop them on the board and just not explain kind of what your culture is about, what you're about. You have to have some onboarding practices. You have to have some training. You have to sit down with them and say, this is our strategic plan. This is our budget. This is our vision. This is what I need you to rally around. And that takes some planning on your part. And so that's probably about 3 years in. I'm not going to get too far into that because you guys are just, it sounds like establishing it with, well, maybe Tamika might be right there, but everyone else, you're just getting into like, let me get my job descriptions together. Let me figure out how to set up the right expectations with them. And then as you progress, you'll want to set up times where at least on an annual basis, you're doing a retreat. You're getting some good quality time together. You're going away for an afternoon, talking about, you know, how are we going to grow this business? How are we going to do more violence prevention? How are we going to do more life skills classes or provide more services to previously incarcerated people, right? So taking that time to be present, to be with each other. I want to highlight 2 best practices that have absolutely been like lights out for me is the advisory board, the use of the advisory board. So let me show you. I think this will be helpful for you to see. I have on my board, just so you kind of get a feel for it, who we are. So here's our leadership. So there I am looking about 50 pounds lighter than COVID. I got that COVID 50. But but no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so there I am, board chairperson, board vice president is or chairperson is Alvin. I've known Alvin for 30 years. He's like my second phase yes board. And he works in the tech industry. Hugh Lynn is our treasurer. Again, I've known her for at least 10 years. And Mick, he's our secretary, known him for at least 10 years. And then Luke, and I've known him for 2 years. He's our newest addition. We had multiple board members that termed out recently last year. And so we're in the process of recruiting new board members. And this mix looks very different than my first board. Okay. Then I have advisory board members, which means they are not they're not voting members, right? So I have 18 of them. They're CEOs of businesses, they're doctors, they're vice presidents of high tech companies, they're counselors, they're executive directors, they're nurses, and so hopefully you can see diverse set of folks, and different industries, and that's all on purpose. Okay. So, so I mentioned that to say, I highly recommend, especially as you're really trying to bring in more diverse thoughts and more diverse, perspectives, guidance around certain things. When I first started, so I don't identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, but I wanted to learn more and make sure that what I was doing was supportive, right? And so I recruited people onto our advisory board that were married to someone who is transgender or identified as LGBTQ on purpose, so that I made sure that whatever I was doing was was aligned, right? Was supportive.
Mm.
Um, I I have people on our board that are, could say that they immigrated here, right? So that we have that perspective. I have different races, different genders, and all of that is super important to me because I want to make sure that everything we're doing makes sense to everyone that we want to serve. Um, and let me just, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about diversity in a second, but I just want you to know that advisory boards is a great way to bring in diverse thought. Okay. All right. Any questions before I move on about and start talking about board culture? Okay, cool.
I have
Yeah,
a question.
sure.
Board members, Doug, as far as under the California, they can't get paid, right?
Board members can get paid if they're filling a certain role for your organization. So you as like I get paid and I am the CEO of the board
Okay.
but I'm also the executive director.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a board member will get paid because they're like the treasurer and they're the finance director.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
So there's nothing, the only, time when there's like, we've had some board members where it can be a conflict of interest is we've had some board members where like we're going to rent a house from them
Mm-hmm.
and then they're on the board. That can, that you need to do some due diligence if you're purchasing any services from a board member, to make sure that whatever they're charging you is in line with the industry and you document that. Because let's say you're paying a board member, I don't know, $200,000 a year to take out the garbage, right? Let's say they have a garbage service and they come and take out the garbage every Sunday for you and they're on the board. That would be inappropriate, right? That would be unethical. So you have to have, and you could lose your status if that was uncovered and revealed. So you want to make sure that you show that, other people who are picking up garbage charge the same amount. So whatever we're giving to a board member to do a particular role, it's in line with the industry standards.
Okay. Can you still hear us, Vanessa?
I can hear you.
Okay. I asked because the screen right now is saying that we lost our network connection.
Oh, okay. Does everyone else?
Yeah, I'm still here. And I can
Okay,
hear
Bobby's
I can hear
there.
you guys as well.
Okay. Just let us know when you're back online.
Yeah, it looked like his screen just froze.
Oh, okay.
Actually, while they do that, I'm gonna switch offices too. That way I can jump in.
No worries.
Okay, we're back up.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so yeah, we can hear you, we can see you again.
Okay, I'll jump back in. Great. All righty. So again, advisory board members, highly recommended that you create an advisory board. Once you establish, obviously, your elected board, advisory boards are a great way to, invite diversity into your organization without, into your board without getting away from a yes board. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's kind of important. But let's talk a little bit about your board culture. So I'm going to be spending some time asking you some questions here, and hopefully you can see them here. But, I want to know, what do you value, right? What do you talk about when you're talking with people? What are the things that you talk about? What are your priorities? How do you make decisions? I'll talk a little bit about, what do you think your growth is going to look like over the next couple of years? It's important to talk about your communication style, your leadership style, and your personal brand. And so I sent that checklist, which we'll work on in a second. But tell me, let's just come off of the slides real quick and go around and answer some of those questions. So, Terrence, what do you value in life?
Value life in itself, and then there's prospering and maturing and going after your goals and your dreams. And just trying to stay focused on the journey at hand.
Okay. So focusing on your journey, purpose, dreams,
Mhm.
And are these things that you like when you are meeting with people in in a group setting? Do you find yourself talking about these kinds of things with people, or are you more kind of talking about things related to maybe the products that you make? What are the things that you find yourself talking about most?
Well, lately, since I've been in the cohort here with YCD, I've been finding myself most of talking about the journey as far as trying to prosper and get the nonprofit running. And I've been meeting a lot of good people in the community. It's like looking into partnerships or looking into collaborating on certain ideas and ventures. So a lot of the time it's nonprofit, speaking on where I'm trying to go with it. And then sometimes I'm a showman. So sometimes I have my portfolios on things that I design through what I do. And a lot of times I'm opening up my books and just sharing it that way to show what I'm trying to create as far as the nonprofit sector and building. Like I'm going to a workforce cohort this Saturday and just trying to develop and show how we can build a workforce off of the skills that I have. For years I was a businessman. It was just me, my brother-in-law, and my wife. But I said, if I do it all again, if I had to do it again, I will build a team. I will build a workforce. And then we will go after, city, commercial, and other contracts like that. But I want to keep it through the nonprofit sector, helping, like, for instance, with brothers and sisters who coming home who have a hard time getting jobs because they might have a felony on their record and stuff like that. We can work with them and try to overlook that kind of stuff. So it's just building a team and a workforce to work in that industry.
So what I hear you saying is your passion is it just happens to be that you know how to sew and you know how to make these products. But in general, what I hear you saying is that you want to teach people who maybe lack purpose or vision to pursue work similar to the way you did it. Think entrepreneurially,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about small businesses that they may be able to establish and the way and learn from your experiences as a small business. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, you're hearing exactly right. Yes.
Okay. So so the people that you would collaborate with that would be interesting to bring in to your board would be people that share that common value with you, that share the common value of wanting to teach young people how to become more, or people in general, how to become more entrepreneurial, right? How
Right.
to pursue their dreams and their purpose very similar to yours. So it's not necessarily people that are super interested in sewing, right? Or
Right.
people that are super interested in hats and purses and things like that, because that just happens to be an example of a small business that you created, that you would use as the example to inspire whoever your students are. But what you're saying is that you would like to inspire them to pursue things that they may be interested in. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So those would be people who have similar values and have similar interests to inspire people to start small businesses, would be people to talk to about being on your board. Talk to about, of course, partnering with you. But that's, that's just starting to understand what are my values and what are the values of the people that I'm speaking to, and where is their alignment in our values. We may be very different people, but are we aligned in wanting to teach other people about how they can become more entrepreneurial? Right? And so that's one example. Let me ask Tamika, how do you make decisions? And so let me give you a little more color on that, right? So there's a lot of different ways that people make decisions. And so did we lose? Oh, we lost her. Oh, that was Bobby.
Bobby.
Do we still have Tamika? Yeah, we do. Okay.
Yes, I'm
So
here.
great. So as we think about, the ways that you make decisions, what's usually your style? Are you someone that is more sort of directive, where the boss tells everybody what to do, or you're more consultative, where you kind of talk to a bunch of people and you ask them what they think, or democratic, where you like ask them what they think and you like the majority to vote on it, or you really like that consensus, or how does it usually work?
I think that I am depending on the situation, because if it's something that I know like needs to be done in a certain type of way and I know that I have the tools to do it, then I'll just make the decision. But most of the time, I'm open, I get opinion from others, I try to analyze it from other people's perspective, and it's more like a group decision. So I guess it depends on the situation.
Okay, cool. So it's really important to know how you make decisions and to be aligned in it with other board members that make decisions in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very hard. Let's say you are starting and I think you mentioned you have 4 people.
4. Yeah.
And so you have 4 people on your board, and if one of the people on your board is directive,
Mm-hmm.
or they like working under a directive person, they're going to say, just tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or they may be always trying to kind of usurp your authority to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Versus people who are more sort of collaborative, consensus building, democratic type of folks. Would you say that your team is a mix of any of those?
I was just about to say, thank goodness my team is more so, okay, we're all going to come up to a conclusion together. We all pretty much at this time is working well together. So I guess I'm thankful for that as of now. But this is bringing up a good point, because what if they change, or what if I do add someone? How am I going to deal with that?
Right.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So this is part of your culture. What you're saying is that we have a consensus culture. We have a culture where we hear everybody out. We don't make decisions until everyone weighs in. And then we build consensus through that conversation. And if people want to, they just want kind of keep it quick and, short and sweet, make a decision, let's go. And they're that kind of individual, they might be very unhappy in your environment. So it's something for you to be thinking about as you recruit new board members.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So other things that you want to be thinking about, and I wish we had Bobby on here, I'd ask him, but that's okay. I'll get him later. What kind of growth are you looking for? Let me just say this very quickly. When you're in a high growth mode, it is so hard to be with people that are not like you, because they're going to move differently than you do. And you're going to have to slow down to catch them up. And so it can be probably beneficial in the long run, but I'm kind of the mind that when you're in your yes board, those are people that have similar thoughts to you, that make it a little bit easier for you to move. But you need to be intentional to say, if I ever want to grow, and really kind of reach new areas, I need to allow someone else in here that thinks differently than me. And they probably are going to slow down my process a little bit, because I have to make room. It's kind of like, have any of you ever tried to explain something to someone who doesn't speak English, and so you pull out Google Translate? Anybody ever do that? No? Okay. I remember I went to France once, and I was trying to ask a guy for directions, and I'm coming up to him, and I had this horrible French attempt. And then I finally just pulled up my Google Translate, and I was like, do you know where this is? And then I played it for him. And then he was like, he said something back, and I had to get the speaker over to his mouth so it could pick it up. And then we went back and forth like that. It took a while to figure out where to go. But had I not stopped and asked him like that, I would have been lost. Okay. So, sometimes we need to slow down to get the right instructions, but it's going to take that little bit of extra effort and that little bit of intentionality to get us there. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. So the speed at which you're growing, if you're growing, at a rapid pace, just know that it's going to be hard to do when you don't have people that are really kind of on the same page. Or sometimes people are on different pages, but you've taken the time to gel, so then you know how to work together and be very different than one another. I have some lifelong friends. They're very different than me, but we've been together for 20 years, so I know how to roll with them. They're a little bit different than me, and they think differently, and it works. But if I had just met them, I wouldn't be like, hey, let's help me with my business venture, because it would just be so hard for me to get started. I would just be kind of going start, stop, because we're not on the same page. Does that make sense? We're talking about board culture, Bobby, and so I wanted to come back to you and ask you a quick question. So we talked about, with Terrence, about what he values, what he talks about, what his priorities are. We talked with Tamika about how she makes decisions. What would you say, Bobby, your leadership style is? And so there's a couple different ways of leading. Do you teach people to fish? Do you allow, people to sink or swim? Are you in total control of everything? Do you build teams? How do you see yourself? Are you somebody who has to have a lot of meetings to figure things out?
Yeah. personally, I would say my leadership style, or that I prefer, is um, teach people to fish, right, and then let them go.
Mhm.
One of the things that I found with my particular style, like with starting, um, I don't have the time or the capacity to be continuously teaching people the things that they need to do, especially if they don't pick it up really quick. Um, and so I was spending a lot of time teaching, um, and just some things, technology things. Sometimes just it doesn't click with everybody, and so I found I was ended up, but I'm also a perfectionist. I
Mm.
found that I was having to like redo things or correct things, and just like I was spending more time continuously doing that than being
Yes.
able to move forward. And so for me, the biggest realization I had at starting out is I really needed to find people who already had those skill sets, um, instead of trying to teach them the things that I wanted them to know, which is hard, right? Especially when you're starting on volunteer basis. But yeah, that's my general is my go-to is I have um, no problem like rolling up my sleeves and getting in and doing the work um, and showing people, because I'm like, for myself, I'm a visual learner, and so I like to be able to like show people. I'll be very hands-on. I'll give a lot of direction in the beginning, maybe too much so in the beginning, and but then I my goal and intent is to prepare them and to equip them with enough tools and understanding of what's to be done and how and the reasons why. I think is one of
Mhm.
the biggest things for me, is especially like, I don't, being formerly incarcerated, I don't have the luxury of making a mistake that somebody might interpret as if it was legal or illegal, like if it was intentional. And so I'm like, we have to be very careful, especially when you're dealing with contracts and government. And so, I feel a higher degree of scrutiny, I guess I should say, um,
Mhm.
to make sure that things are done correctly. So I try to like let people, give people the ball and let them run with it. Um, and if they don't know, I will teach them as much as I can. But really, I've had to start to shift and look at how do I find people who already have the skill sets.
Yeah. So this is a really important point, you guys, because um, based on your own personal leadership style, oftentimes you're attracting the people like board members that might align with that leadership style. So if you're in a yes board, that might not be a big deal. Maybe it will, maybe it is. Maybe you need to push yourself to look for someone who's a little more skilled. But if you find that you're always surrounding yourself with people that need to be taught because you like teaching, or people who are needy and can't get, people who take versus give,
Mm.
people who are not, skilled in a lot of ways. That can be because and I hope, I'm not saying this to you personally, Bobby, but I'm just saying in general, I'll just speak for myself. In my early days, I had some insecurities about working with certain kinds of people. And so I wouldn't bring those people in my sphere because I didn't want to feel inadequate.
Mm.
And so, so if your culture is built around being surrounded by people who need you and who you're more knowledgeable than, or you're more connected than, that's not going to serve you well in the long run. It's absolutely valuable, I think, maybe as you build your confidence early on, or as you're dealing with your yes board, but as your culture, as your board evolves and grows, you have to grow as well, which means inviting people in that are better than you and that don't need to be taught anything, right? Not anything, but
Yeah.
they're not so heavily dependent on that.
Yeah, and actually, I totally agree. I think I was speaking from the reference of people who I'm working with, like
Yeah.
as far, not necessarily board members,
Employees,
like all
right?
my
Yeah.
board, exactly. All
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
board members are are intentionally, I want them to be smarter than me and to bring
Right.
value and add value to things where I can't. And so I don't, like when I was, creating my advisory board, I was intentional of not just having people who are there in, for just their face,
Yeah.
and their credentials, but not actually doing anything. It's like I
Yeah.
really wanted people who can add value,
Yeah.
and and um, and who bring, a degree of credibility that I couldn't come in, that I was, formerly and recently released and formerly incarcerated.
Mhm.
It was the individuals who I was working with, the team that I was working with, where I had a lot of challenges. Because I wanted to build a primarily, if not fully, a team that's fully formerly incarcerated individuals.
Mhm.
And you want to, for me, it's like I wanted to help people to uplift them and to be able to help them upskill. But that
Yeah.
was where the challenges were, is because now I'm spending all my time continuously trying to teach instead of doing the work that needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah, so good. Excellent. So that's it. That's the design you want to go after. So that's great. And I just asked you the questions about your leadership style because sometimes that leadership style that we use for our team is the one that we use to create our boards as well. And so especially in the early times. Okay. So I think so you had jumped off for a second. So I got a little bit of information about your organization from Jermaine, that you have a fiscal sponsor, right? So, and then you have an advisory board. How many advisory board members do you have on?
We just added one over the weekend. So I believe it's 5 now.
5. And do you plan to get your articles and your bylaws and all that, your 501c3?
Yeah, I not yet, but I'm getting, now that I've kind of formalized exactly what our niches and where we're going. I was waiting to see if I was going to go for profit or nonprofit. I was leaning towards nonprofit, or a mix. But now that we have things in place, and I've been able to go back over and do budgeting and some other things, like now it's certain that it is fully nonprofit, and so it's just a matter of when. But also I like being able to leverage the fiscal sponsor as far as them handling, the books on the fiscal side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helpful in the beginning,
Yeah.
especially. Cool. All
One less
right.
task that I have to
So,
manage.
yeah, exactly. So hopefully just kind of thinking through some of these things is helpful to you as you think about establishing a board culture. And again, I'll just share. We'll go back and we'll do yeah, I wanted to do that. So one thing to note, this is really important. Again, this is how you're going to recruit your board members. This is how you're going to think through who you are and knowing how you align with other people, and or how you create a culture that you currently do not have, right? Is thinking through some of the answers to these questions. And that link that I put in the chat, and also that I emailed to you, I don't know if you have it there in the room, but that's a cultural self-assessment. And so I will just really quickly I will show you, let me see here, that document. And this is just a great tool for you to kind of utilize to raise your own awareness of what kind of culture you bring to the table, or that you have the potential to create for your board and for your company, right? So asking yourself questions like, do you value diversity? Do you know yourself? Do you share your culture? Are you aware of areas of your own discomfort? Do you challenge your own stereotypes? Are you curious? Do you accept ambiguity? And it's really important that you know, if you're someone who looks like black and white, I know one of my executive assistant for my first, well, she was my EA for about 4 years, from year 4 to year 9. And she's amazing. Very rule follower, big time rule follower. And and I'm like a creative, and I'm like, we're gonna try this, woo! And that was hard because she was this rule follower, and I'm like, we're gonna try this, and she'd be like, we can't do that. That's not following the, you know, that's like, we should do things step 1, step 2, step 3. And it was super hard at times, but I kept saying, you know, it's really good that I have someone like her in my, you know, on my team, because she keeps me in line, right? And so it's, you know, you say accepts ambiguity. Some people, you know, be honest. Like if you're someone who likes black and white, then put that down. I don't like ambiguity. I don't like things when they're not clear. Also, knowledge. Do you gain from your mistakes? Do you assess your limits, the limits of your knowledge? Do you ask questions? Right? So this is all about creating culture, a culture that gets to ask questions, a culture that understands the impact of racism, sexism, homophobia, and prejudices. A culture that that acknowledges interculture and intracultural differences. Right? Understanding the point of reference to assess appropriate behavior. So if you're in, you know, if you're in, I don't know, in the some Asian cultures, if you're bowing, then that's appropriate. In the US, we don't see that as much, right? So understanding, is that appropriate or not? Certain things that we may do. I had I recently was on a call with a social worker, and she was saying that this young man who had been brought here under false pretenses, and he was a labor trafficking victim, and he was 18 years old. He refused to, and he had been brought here from Africa, and he refused to wash his own clothes. And he told his foster mom that that was her job. And you know, foster mom was like, who the heck does he think he is? Like, no, and absolutely not. And we began to peel back the onion and say, okay, what's it like in his country? In his country, where he just came from, his mom would do his laundry every day. So he's not meaning it in an offensive way. It's what he's accustomed to, and it's the way he feels cared for. And so we had to help the foster mom know that it's kind of equivalent to maybe giving someone in the US a hug. Is that you would, you know, his mom didn't hug him as much, but his mom did his laundry every day. And so while he's in transition, waiting to go back to Africa, is this something that you would be willing to do for him to make him feel loved, or help him understand that there's a cultural difference here? So those are some examples. I would welcome you to spend some time with that. We're at halfway through, and I wanted to give you just an opportunity to do that, and maybe an opportunity. There was one other section I missed, which was skills. So skills. Let me just pull this back up. Skills is the third section, and hopefully you can see that there. But skills is I'm actively involved in initiatives, small or big, that promote interaction and understanding among members of diverse groups. So that's becoming engaged, acting respectfully in a cross-cultural situation, practicing cultural protocols. So these are cultural skills. I know what it's like to act as an ally, to be flexible, to be adaptive, right? So these are all, this is you assessing your cultural competence.
Vanessa.
Yes.
I was trying to view the document, but it says I have to be a Course Hero member, and I'm wondering, like, before I sign up, it says join Course Hero. It says I'm a student or I'm an educator. Is this free to sign
Oh
up?
no, let me give you a different link. Sorry, I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Let
that,
me
or
give
if
you.
you could download at a later point and then like a Word document or a PDF and then send it to us.
Yeah, this is a PDF, so click there and it'll come right up for you, and then you can download it.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, now I can read it. Yeah, before it was just blurry. It only showed you like the first page and then it was blurry.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna give you. Let me give you about 5 minutes to just peruse that. See if you have any observations. Then we'll come back. We'll debrief on that, and you can finish it later. But just kind of take a look at it, and maybe check a few in each of the categories. And then we'll come back, talk about it, and then we'll move into fundraising after that. Okay.
Yeah, but it's more, I mean, the setting's on me, so it's been a little bit different. So cool. But I mean, you're right, that is the thing.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Exactly, it's not bad.
It's really about the signing, but Westminster.
Right, right. It's good.
Okay, how we doing? Getting close?
It's for me, but I don't want to answer too much because I'm like, I know this isn't for me, but I am going through these too.
Good.
Mhm.
Last.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot.
I've been trying to poke and see it.
Right, right.
Okay. So I'm going to call us back just in the interest of time. You may need some more time to do that later. And I encourage you to finish that up just so that you have what that's supposed to do is serve as a tool for you to just reflect on around your own cultural competency. And you could have, everyone in your organization, I'm sorry, on your board, and, go through this. And it could raise some awareness about blind spots that you all may have as a board that you could either work to address with training or bringing speakers in that could help you kind of address some of those areas if that's culture that you want to develop and competency that you want to be developed, and or bringing in another board member that will challenge you to start to address some of the gaps that you might see. Before I pull the slides back up, any aha moments, like something you're like, oh, that's an area I need to think more about? No? Everyone's perfect here?
No.
Interesting. I know I'm trying to find like the question. I think I did do underline one on the be curious around awareness. I intentionally make opportunities to put myself in places where I can learn about difference and establish diverse connections.
Mhm.
I know that me personally, I am one that does value diversity. In a for numerous reasons, and a lot of it has to go back to school for me. So I and it kills my wife. Like she can't stand like how interested I can be in like understanding other people. Sometimes it's like, what do you got to understand them for? but I do acknowledge, I do acknowledge, you know, because some people, you know, the differences can be frustrating, right? The
Yeah.
differences can be uncomfortable. The differences can be, you know, all of those words. And I think that, again, one thing that I know, emphasizing here is intentionally bringing around or even putting ourselves in places where we won't necessarily be easily understood. And I wanted to bring it up, one, because I know that the grant that we're funded by is like an all Black grant, right? So it's like Black business, Black nonprofits, Black everything. And so that was part of the thing. Like, I know that we can really feel, and or sometimes I would even admit that sometimes feel very comfortable with a room full of us and we all are on the same page. And therefore, especially, I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to things like business
Yeah.
and money and funds and stuff, it's like, dude, like, I don't want to be around a whole bunch of people who don't look like me, you know, and not for the sake of just comfort, but for the real sake of like being able to trust intentions, being able to feel like people do actually care about our organization and our well-being. And so I think that is something that is easier to do in more like of a social context. But when it comes to these real strong matters of who's going to be part of my organization, that can be something that we might have to work towards, because they have that type of, they would have some type of power over what happens with what we do.
Right. So there's
Yeah.
a trust that you have to develop. And that's where I think coming up with the elected board, advisory board construct is so powerful, because you can have the elected board be those people that you trust, whoever those might be. And then your advisory board can be people that, you know, you want that diverse thought to come in, and you intentionally incorporate it in what you're doing. And, you know, of course, my goal would be that your elected board would eventually become just as diverse. And you would get some people in there, some people that have different ideas and thoughts and ways of doing things. I think that's healthy. But early in your development, it's very hard to corral all of those differences. And actually, I'm gonna share this slide with you, and it'll kind of bridge us back into, you know, or ties very well into this. So this was my next slide about board diversity. So, you know, one thing that is interesting is in business, you always talk about alignment. Got to make sure that you're aligned, that you're focused, that you're streamlining everything, and from what I have seen, if you take diversity and I might need to show you, you know, like I should have done an article. I mean, I should have done a graphic for this. But if diversity isn't a way of life for you, it's not a way of life for you. If it's a kind of a little widget that you're inserting into this aligned flow, and you're like, oh, let me insert my little diversity block in there, it is going to derail everything that you're trying to do, because again, you're dealing with something that is different and you're trying to shove it in to the middle of something that's moving forward, as opposed to saying, we are an organization that embraces diversity as a whole. In other words, like, I very quickly have learned that I cannot, sorry, my phone is ringing. I've quickly learned that I cannot, so I'll give you an example. I have a candidate that I am looking at to hire as a coordinator, who is diagnosed, as schizophrenic as well, and also has some developmental challenges. Okay. He comes into one of our centers every day. He helps us build our labs. He's super helpful. He's just a great guy. Love working with him, right? But because of his mental health challenges, he may move a little slower than other people. He may have days where he's not, as pulled together, like his outfit may be a little disheveled from time to time. Okay. But because of my mission, which is to empower all people to express their best sense of humanity, that's my mission. And he's all people. So if I don't see him and I don't meet him and I don't appreciate the things that he brings to the table, how can I effectively say that I'm pursuing my mission? Now, if his role was to help me, execute on every corporate strategy that I had and to crunch numbers and things like that, then I'd be like, no, this isn't going to work. That's too far of a reach. But somebody in my organization goes, I think we could get someone a little bit stronger, someone who's, crisp, who came in every day with their business, attire, and someone who was, ready to do this and that for us versus this other person. And I said, yeah, but then it would get away from the culture that I'm trying to create. So I'd rather go with somebody who's less productive and keep my culture of diversity and inclusion than the other way. And I just believe that I'm going to have better results because my mission and my vision and my culture embraces diversity intrinsically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you're doing your board, you have to, just because let me make this clear, just because everyone is on your board is Black doesn't mean you all have the same culture.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that you have to have common values and common outcomes that you want to see. No matter what your gender, I can be on a board of all women. We will see things all like many, many different ways. And there's that intersectionality, right? Of, your socioeconomic status, your gender identity, your race, your ethnicity, right? What languages you speak, all of that creates the fabric of who you are. So we have to, even here saying that we're all Black, we all have different experiences here. So how can we align and still make room for diversity? And there is a way to do it, but it has to be that the diversity is at the top of or it's part of who you are. And otherwise, if you are going to use it as a widget, then it's a different approach. It's a totally different approach. And it's not, it's going to be kind of checking a box. And so you have to just recognize, and some people have organizations that do that. And, they're not always safe places for everyone to be. And they, there's a little bit of tokenism that goes with that. Right. So we have to kind of decide what kind of organization we want to be. And then that's going to translate into the kind of board that we want to have. And again, I ask these questions. Will this new board member that I bring on, will they slow me down? Perhaps I need to slow down. Like I mentioned about my EA. She was kind of slowing me down. That was a good thing. Does this different way of thinking or operating align to the purpose? Okay. So now I'm going to shift gears. Hopefully I've given you some things to think about in terms of building your board. Again, minimally 3 people, hopefully no more than 14 people, bringing people in, your yes board, your no to grow board. These are all things that I want to hopefully give you to kind of think through later on. Any questions before I move on to fundraising strategy? Okay. So fundraising strategy. So the steps to success, I have this, the steps to success are number one. And I would say in here, because we're just starting out, maybe it's create and review your budget, right? And then you want to be setting SMART goals. And I put the little note down here. It's funny, SMART goals. And then I always forget what SMART stands for, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Specific meaning I want to raise $20,000 by June, so that I can achieve, I can help this group of students through the summer. That's specific, it's measurable, it's 6 months to do it, so it's probably achievable. It's tied back to helping, let's say in the case of Terrence, helping, young people in the summer learn about entrepreneurship. So it's relevant and it's time bound. It's between now and June. That's a SMART goal, right? So you set these SMART goals by month and by quarter. And so I just gave you a 6-month outlook. So now I need to take that 20K and I need to break it down by quarter and by month. So maybe it's 6 months. Maybe I set the goal of raising 22K every month leading up until June, which would be 6,000 every quarter leading up until June, right? Well, actually, sorry, not 2,000, 3, right? So 3,000 would get you to $18,000, close to your $20,000 goal. So 3,000 a month. So that would be a SMART goal by month and by quarter. And then you're going to define how you're going to achieve that. You're not going to just put down, oh, well, I want to do 3,000 every month. How? What is the actual activity you're going to do that's going to allow you to raise $3,000? And then you want to calendar it and you want to track and evaluate your progress. So this is super simple steps, but this is a fundraising strategy. Okay. And then you want to take some time to be thinking through, as you're thinking through these scenarios, or these goals, you want to ask yourself, who's your customer? What are their demographics? How are you reaching them today? Who's tasked with communicating with them on your team? How much would it cost you to raise the 20,000? If it's going to cost you 20,000 to raise 20,000, don't do it. Right? And are there some start, stop, continues for 2020? I should say 2022. And what start, stop, continues is just a tool that I use that helps me when I'm doing a team meeting. I go, what's your start? What are you going to start in 2023? What are you going to stop that you've been doing in 2022 or prior? And what are you going to continue? And it's the way that I kind of have a little roundtable discussion with board members or with team members or committee members. Let's go through the start, stop, continue, because that'll help us to hone in on things that we need to do to fine tune our plan. So let me stop right now and ask you that question. Who are your customers, Terrence? Remember, these are customers for your entrepreneurial mentorship, right? Who are your customers?
As far as, sometimes I get mixed up between the nonprofit and the for-profit thing. So I knew who my customers were when I was in a for-profit business, as far as the city, the government, private sector, commercial, because that's what I was into. Mm-hmm. But it'd be similar. I have had speaks with the city and county of San Francisco once I get ready to go on this venture as far as training. And that's a good question, because I wanted to ask you, because I had an idea of trying to run a for-profit business under the umbrella of a nonprofit, if there's a legal structure way to set that up. Because see, I'm not just, when I go into what I'm talking about doing, I'm not just going to set up a
college, like they had a college training where you go in and you learn how to sew and you learn how to do it. That's not me. My thing is going out and get my target customers at youth 17 to 35, and they can be youth, even young men coming home from jail, men and women. And then I deal with a lot of brothers and sisters that are in the violence. So my thing is, how do I want to create something where I want to get them trained, and then I can go after contracts that I used to get in my private business. I could go up, but I want to keep it structured through the nonprofit as a way, because one problem, I used to work for a nonprofit, and one problem that we always had, I was a program coordinator, is once the funding ran out, sometimes youth was right back to the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was told them that if we can devise a plan in a way to create some monies, and we can start creating something off of what we do, as far as what I do, as far as designing, making a product. See, my thing is, I'm working with a young lady from college now, City College. She's a web-page designer. And I want to start mass producing what I know how to produce, design the web page, and then we send it over the World Wide Web, and we just come up with something that say that if you invest into these products that we're designing, it helps save lives. And
Wow.
that's what we take that money and funnel it right back into our program.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, because a lot of nonprofits, we know how to go out and probably go after a grant, this and that, but other ways to raise money is what I'm trying to bring to the table from my skill set perspective. I can also raise money as far as one way. I had a RFP that I got for. We went out and literally picked furniture up off the curb. Like I used to get a list of when the people got homeowners gonna have put in their trash what they didn't want out. We'll go pick up all of their table sets. We'll go pick up all of their couches, and we restructured, redeveloped, and put it back out for sale. And we help stop stuff from going to the landfill.
Perfect. That's another entrepreneurial idea.
Exactly. And so that's just my target for my trainer would be 17 to 34, but also a lot of people get at me about working with recidivism, with people coming home from the penitentiary, because I have a friend and he's like, Terry, what you do will work well with this.
Yeah.
Because in the penitentiary, you have some people that was in the penitentiary learning upholstery, but they learn the skill set to come home, then they can't get the job.
Right.
So if they have a vehicle that they can come home to, then they can have a job. And so I'm just working them kinks out right now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So there's the ability to have a for-profit and nonprofit in partnership with each, like under the same business umbrella. And then, some people call that a social enterprise, what you've just described.
Okay.
And so you absolutely, that's a whole strategy of, and now California has a heavy duty funding on something that's called on the job training or paid apprenticeships, where you could literally be a for-profit employer that is hiring your nonprofit students for as paid apprentices that work for your for-profit business for 12 to 24 months. And part of what they're doing when they do that is that they're learning, right? You're educating them, and then they're also being paid while they're working. So that's a definite business model that is very prevalent. I definitely recommend looking into that. This is a really beautiful time to be doing that. So with that in mind, your customer is whoever that young person or whoever that person is that is getting out of jail or has no opportunity, who would be utilizing your on the nonprofit side would be utilizing your training. That is your customer. The government agencies and the grants, those are partners, those are collaborators, those are people that you need to care about in order to fund. but your end customer is going to be the one that actually uses your services, right? Uses your training.
Mhm.
And then on your for-profit side, your end customer is going to be the one who purchases your products, right? So that would be whoever's buying the purse or the hat or the shirt or whatever it is you make. And like you said, you can use a portion of your profit from your for-profit side to fund your nonprofit side. And that's just all gravy. So that's good. So, you want to be thinking, notice how this is part of your fundraising strategy, right? What we're talking about is your fundraising strategy. You're going to establish a for-profit that's going to funnel a portion of your profits into your nonprofit. And then your nonprofit is going to apply for grants that help you serve the people that are in need of entrepreneurial training and education or apprenticeships, right? So let me ask you a question. So Bobby, what are the demographics of your customers?
Sorry, I was having a little bit of difficulty unmuting. So I'm glad you actually were mentioning what you were just discussing, because that was going to be my clarifying question to you as far as customer versus participant, or especially like in the nonprofit sector. So and the reason I say that is because this is what over the last few weeks what we finally like determined what is going to be like one of our primary sources of financial self-sustainability is there was a Medi-Cal expansion that through it's called CalAIM that has happened, and specifically what we're looking at is there's peer support specialist certification that people can formerly incarcerated people can get the certification to help them be able to be economically empowered and earn a higher livable wage. So what we are doing is a housing navigation program. Hold on one second. My alarm's going off. Okay. Housing navigation service utilizing our peer support specialist. And with that, the customer technically would be managed care providers like Anthem Blue Cross, Kaiser, different organizations that we would be billing through Medi-Cal. The end user or the person, the beneficiary of it would be the people who are coming out of custody that are on Medi-Cal or Medicare. That will be our primary focus. But in general, for example, for like our toll-free reentry helpline, same thing. Our reentry helpline and our where people can call in, or they can use our resource locator. We have a reentry resource an online reentry resource locator where they can search and find reentry service providers. That joins with our reentry referral helpline. But basically, we create a reentry plan, a 28-day reentry plan for individuals. So that customer would be those people who are calling. So it's still the same beneficiaries, the target people at the end, but who we actually bill is dependent on if it's through a grant, which would be those other ones, the helpline, which, like you said, would be like that partnership with government agencies through grants, and or the managed care providers that we're directly billing and invoicing for the housing navigation services.
Yeah. So really, it's very important to get clear on who your customer is when you're in a nonprofit, because sometimes we think that the customer, like in your case, maybe it is the insurance provider. Maybe you're marketing your services to them. You're providing them a service to onboard. People have been previously incarcerated, and everything that you do, all your systems are designed around catering to their needs. And it's nothing to do with the person who's coming out of, prison or whatever, that they're there. they get the service, they get access to it, but that's not that person isn't really your main customer. That may be the case, but you probably have a primary and a secondary customer in that situation, and you have to be thinking about certainly, I mean, what somebody's paying the bill for someone else, that's a different equation. But designing your, if you want to be customer centric in what you're doing, you always have to know who you're designing your systems for, right? And then specifically around fundraising, though, knowing who that secondary persona or that secondary customer is going to be super important, because that's how you're going to pay for the service. So maybe it's here where you're saying our philosophy is that people who are reentering into society will have access to medical care, jobs, housing, blah, blah, blah. That's our mission. And we're going to design systems, and we're going to design collaborations and partnerships that are going to ensure that that these individuals that are coming out have access to X, Y, and Z, right? That's your mission. I'm just making that up. And, they're going to have access to X, Y, and Z. From that mission, your customer is the person that's coming out of prison. And your partner or your collaborator or the agency that is actually helping to fund a portion, helping you fulfill against one of your mission, is going to be the insurance company. So just kind of getting clear on that, I think, is important as part of your fundraising strategy and the way that you measure success.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, and I appreciate that, because that's the thing is I've been doing it as a customer versus a participant, and the participant was the end user. From what I'm hearing you saying is reframe it as because all of my measurements are, well, I can't say all of my measurements, but a lot of my measurements are the service that we're providing to the participant, which that's why I said it's on that particular one. That particular program, it's more like they are the customer, which is all the other programs. It is the customer, is the end user. So keeping that frame of they are the customer. I like how you framed it as a secondary customer would be the people who are paying for that service, and that's who we're reporting to or providing that information back to.
Yeah. I think you want to have that attitude of I'm going to serve everyone, but keeping that focus on who it is that you're serving primarily. Like without them, none of this happens, right? They're where the rubber meets the road. So they're central, and then all these other people are ancillary to actually serve that person. And then you start to design like many different ways, many different streams of income, many different, we can go with grants, we can go with insurance agencies, we can go with donors, we can go with fundraising events. Because why? Because your focus isn't just on that insurance piece, it's the person, and they have all these needs that you're trying to meet.
Yeah, and that's ultimately who we wanted to help anyway. So that's why I say I definitely like that and appreciate that. Sure. Also because it is ultimately the people who we're trying to serve. So
yeah, cool.
Definitely makes sense.
Cool. So
and from a fundraising, I think that's the other factor is I was like, with this particular program, I wasn't going to heavily worry about fundraising other than maybe some seed capital to make sure we had operating capital for the first 3 to 6 months as we're building out the contracts. But it is, like you said, ultimately that should be the one, and that aligns with all of our other programs.
Well, the other thing you always have to think about, and I've learned this the hard way actually, is that you might be thinking, I got a sure thing. This flow of money I got from this one little place right here, it's going to keep flowing. It's going to be good. And then there'll be another regime that comes in and says, reentry is no longer where it's at. We're not funding that anymore.
Yeah.
And so what you always want to be thinking about, I'm not saying your strategy is wrong to get started,
but
diversify your funding. So I have, I want to say the rule of thumb is that you want to have individual contributions in the 40 to 50% of your grant. So you want to provide a vehicle for people to give the $5 and the $10. And believe it or not, I mean, I was blown away when I saw how many $5 and $10 made hundreds of thousands of dollars on our budget. I was just like, wow, like it's mind blowing to think that $100,000 can come from a bunch of people giving $5 and $10. And so we go for those big pops of money. Oh, give me the $100,000 or the $20,000 grant. And those come and go, but it's a lot harder to disrupt $100,000 that's given by 10,000 people. And so the chances of you losing that are a lot lower. So diversifying your portfolio of fundraising, of donors, of funding streams is so critical, so important. And in fact, you can even stack government grants. You can get insurance money, and then you can get grant money, and then you can get donor money, and you can all stack it all together very strategically. You can't double count things. You have to be careful about how you do that, the accounting there. But long term, you want to be thinking about diversifying your portfolio of funds. So let me go back here and just pull these slides back up. Any questions so far?
Yeah. One question that was arising was with regard to the primary and the secondary customers. Are we thinking that there needs to be some type of correlation between those two as kind of like the target audience, or are we saying that they can actually be, in some respect, completely different folks? We're particularly aiming for this crowd for the secondary, and then the primary are these folks over here.
As it relates to fundraising, to be honest with you, the secondary customer that Bobby just mentioned that was more about him framing kind of the way he talks about his customers, right? So he wants to have an emphasis that I'm going to cater to the insurance agencies that are helping me to pay for all this, right? So he's saying that they're my customer. But what I was trying to urge him to look at is that his customer is the person who's coming out of jail, right? Of prison.
Okay.
And then to look at not just relying on that the insurance money, but look at a lot of different ways that he can serve that customer. And when you know who your customer is, if Bobby were to continue to think that the insurance agency is his customer, then why diversify his funding streams? Right? Because they're providing money, and as long as I keep them happy, but now I'm just locked in with one person. But if I think about who my customer is, which is, in his case, someone who is re-entering into the world, right, after incarceration, now I can say, man, this customer can gain, I can create a persona for this customer that would be relevant to someone who's willing to give $5 or $10. This customer I could basically put forth this customer to get government grants, to get federal grants, to get foundation money, right? So there's so much more than that insurance agency. That's where I was going with it.
Okay, cool. And then one other question simply was fundraising platforms. Do you have any suggestions as to like you were just mentioned, like the $5, the $10 donations, how they can add up and such? Are there platforms that you say like these are our go-tos, or this has been like one that served us the most?
Yes. So we've used several of them. What is the name of the one that we use now? We've used Stripe. We've used Black Box. Gosh, the one we're using now we really love, and the one we had before, it was what's it called? Flip. Let me take that as an action item to give you a list of the ones that let me just here, I'll look at my thing. I'm forgetting what we use now. The one that we're using now is by far the best, and only because it has very similar. Flipcause was the one we had last year. I'm just looking at my thing. And the only reason I say that it's better than Flipcause, the one I'm using now, is, and I'll tell you what that is in a second, is because it's easier to create a campaign than Flipcause was. So Flipcause required you to do some, like, you'd basically have to submit to them that you wanted to do a campaign, and then they would create it for you, and you'd have to wait for quite a, like maybe for a day or two before they could spin it up. Whereas right now, the tool that I have, I could spin it up immediately. And so, yeah, let me just, so GiveSmart is who's funding this, but that's not what it's called. It starts with an M, and I will get back to you on that. So Flipcause is a good platform, very reasonable. It's local, and we used that for a while. But as we began to grow, we would want to spin up like a fundraising campaign quickly, and we found that MobileCause, that's what it is. We found that MobileCause was a little bit faster in spinning up than Flipcause. Yay, I'm glad I remembered. Black Box is really good, but that's for when you're like big time, you're making tons of money, you're ready to go. Apricot is good as well. Those are for larger nonprofits. So I would say for, your 500,000 and below, it's going to be a Flipcause or a MobileCause. And I'm happy to do a send you a comparison. I actually have an interesting chart that looks at different donation platforms. You have to, let me emphasize this, you must have a digital strategy for your nonprofit. In fact, just throwing out there, I have a course that I've created called it's an urban tech entrepreneurship class, and there's a module in there that talks about digitizing your business. And so it's not just your fundraising platform, but how you sell products online, and websites, and all of that, social media campaigns and things like that. You have to have that set up in this day and age in order to make it as a nonprofit or a for-profit business.
Right.
So if you're interested in that, I can send you guys the link to the to the classes that we have coming on that you could participate in.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah,
Any
definitely
other
interested. That's actually like the stage that I'm at right now. Like I've been working the last year really to focus on creating the infrastructure, creating the database, creating the website, getting everything set so that it can be either fully or semi-automated, and creating our process and our service delivery. Now my next stage right now is the funding, the finances, the fundraising, and setting up those things. So definitely would love to get that comparison chart that you were mentioning, as well as links to digitizing it, that course that you were talking about, to look into, setting up and digitizing the campaigns, the strategies for fundraising, because that's the point that I'm at right now.
Cool. Yeah. I'd love to. I'll share that out with you guys.
And then I did have one question on the last slide that you were on. It was, you mentioned it, and I was wondering if you can repeat what you were talking about as far as the start, stop, and
Continue.
continues in terms of fundraising or board? I think you were mentioning from the context of a board.
Yeah, so this is just an approach that I use whenever I am pulling people together to do planning. I will say, okay, and it could be about fundraising or anything else, quite frankly. I've just found it to be super easy and simple to say, so, okay, as it relates to fundraising, what do we need to start? So if you haven't done any fundraising, obviously they'll laugh, right? You got to start fundraising. But if you have gotten in some funding of some sort, then, what other, like, let's double click, like what underneath do we need to start? What do we need to stop doing? Maybe there's some fundraising. There's some events last year that we did where we're spending more money than we're bringing in. So we need to stop doing that. And then we need to continue, I don't know, doing awareness events. Might not produce funding right away, but we notice within 6 months of an awareness event that we do, we see some funding that starts flowing in, right? So that might be a continue. And so if you try to frame it under whatever it is, whatever problem you're trying to solve, and you say, what's the start, stop, continue, it can be a powerful tool. Does that help?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So I have a few minutes left, and I just wanted to quickly share a few more things for you to think about. So you want to, as you're selecting your board, and as your board is moving along, you want to make sure that they're engaged to help you with your donors. As time progresses, you probably want to create a fundraising committee. But right now, I think, you're early enough on where that's probably not, it might be needed for Tamika for sure. I think for you, Bobby, yes, maybe of your advisory board members. And then you're in a different place, Terrence, but you will very soon be in this place of needing to create maybe 2 or 3 people that are on a fundraising committee. You want to make sure that you're clear on, with board members, do you need immediate income? Immediate income is like, get out there and sell some purses and some shoes and stuff, right, that I've made. Versus doing an awareness event that is going to produce income in 6 to 12 months, right? So you have to kind of decide where you're going to spend your time, and probably a mix of the two. But if you really just need that immediate funding, you're going to have to, it's bake sales, right? It's find something that you can sell today versus casting vision and having people kind of invest in your business over time. And then just 2 other things. You want to, when you're creating your fundraising strategy and plan, you want to back into that plan. And the first step is you got to have that budget. I mentioned this earlier. You want to break down your budget by quarter and by month, and you'll list how you're going to achieve each of your monthly goals using a fundraising activity of some sort. So you're backing into your budget. And so here's an example of, you have your annual budget. It's $1 million. Q1, you say you're going to raise $250,000. Month 1, you break it down. I'm going to have a movie event. I'm going to raise $50,000 for that movie event. Month 2, I'm going to apply for a grant. Month 3, I'm going to do a gala. Oop, my math is off. So that comes to 300. So, woo, I overachieved on Q1. So the point is that you're breaking down, right? You're breaking down every month, you're breaking down what you need to achieve based on the budget that you have set before you for the year. Right. And so these are things that you want to be sort of planning for. And then lastly, I have this template I just grabbed online. There's some really, really good tools out there. If you do some Google searching, this one I thought was kind of simple. And you could use this for your fundraising events. So you determine how much you need to make, who's going to be responsible. You establish a budget for that event. You identify resources that you need to achieve the goal. You figure out your logistics, including hazard and risk management. Is there anything like safety wise that you need to be aware of? You organize your volunteers, you publicize it, you conduct your fundraiser, you manage the funds. So it gets counted, it gets deposited, it gets recognized. You recognize volunteers and contributors, you evaluate the effort, and then you maybe do a start, stop, continue here, and then you do it all over again.
Mhm.
And so this is just really keeping it real simple, but hopefully this gives you something tangible that you can walk away with this and apply. So I wanted to give you my contact information in case you have follow-up questions. I'd love to stay in touch with all of you. And then also this is our social media just for the recording. You guys want to follow us. And I think you have me until 12:15, Jermaine, but I wanted to just give enough time for everybody to ask questions or, whatever it is that you might need.
Can you put your contact information back up? I was getting
Sure.
ready to do a
Oh,
screenshot of my.
shot? Okay, no
Yeah, but
problem.
my computer's moving super slow for everything I hit. It's like not reacting.
No problem. Let me get that back up here for you. And of course, I think I closed it. So let me just pull that up. And here we go. Well, that's weird. Boom. And there we go. And here's my contact info.
Perfect. I got it. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So, how'd I do? Was this helpful? I love feedback. So did this help? What are some things you're going to go away and apply right now, today? What are you going to do today? Go cure world hunger?
Word.
One or two things, Terrence, that you're taking away from this time together?
One or two things I'm taking away.
Yeah.
Really get out here and getting 3 yes people for my board, which I have
yeah. That's
mine
right.
already. So I'm jumping right on. I've been on it, but I'm really get on it now.
Okay.
And just staying focused, and we're working right now trying to formulate a location. So we're looking into some stuff with the mayor right now, and also looking into a guy that got a lot of warehouses around the city. I want to go look at a couple of those warehouse spaces. So
Nice.
that's what we're doing.
Love it. All right. Sounds good, Terrence. How about you, Bobby?
Yeah, I apologize. There's a little background noise. I'm in a shared office right now.
That's okay.
But really, I think this was really right on point and right on time for me, especially because, two parts. The two biggest things that I'm sure Jermaine remembers when I first started speaking to him was, well, 3 things. Was 1, building our network, 2, building our board, and 3, fundraising. And so this was like perfect timing because the last few weeks, I've been like really fine tuning everything as far as the infrastructure and the technology components. And so being able to, like I mentioned, I just brought on 1 new person this weekend. They're not on our website yet, but on our board. And so that's exactly where I'm at right now. So getting your your thoughts and your input on building the board. Even though since we're a fiscal sponsor, we can't have a board of directors, but it's our advisory board. And then the fundraising committee, I think, is another thing I've been thinking about. But it's like I'm at that point where, like, one of my advisors, she's continues to tell me, well, actually, two of my advisors, they're both like, when are you gonna start raising money? When are you gonna start raising money? I'm like, well, let me first figure out, let me get this structural stuff done, and then let me figure out, like, one of the things you talked about today, which was who's that customer. And so when I'm framing it and when I'm speaking on it, like, having it very clear, that's one of the things, like, taken away today is, okay, this is my primary customer. Even though that there's other ways that we're going to be funding them, or that somebody's going to be paying for it. But this is it. So there was several takeaway points today. I'm not just completely honest, I won't be doing it today, but this weekend,
Yeah.
I'll be able to start addressing these and getting these things in there and really, like, strategizing. I think that last thing I definitely need to look up some templates to help me, like, organize what does my funding strategy look like over the next year. I have to do a lot of marketing planning for the next year. Marketing, fundraising, this is the point where I'm at right now, is what are we looking at moving forward? And so that's what I'm going to be starting this weekend.
Great. Woohoo. I love it.
So truly helpful.
Yeah.
It was right on time. Truly thankful for all the information and knowledge and experience that you gave.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad. Is there any questions before we conclude our time? Anything you?
I did drop two
Oh,
questions in the
Okay, let me go look.
And I'll just tell you real quick. It's just, will we have access to these slides? And also, will we be sure to get a copy of the board job description that you had mentioned in the very beginning?
Yeah, I'll send you that.
As well as everything else that we were asking if you can send.
Yeah. So I have the board job description, the slides, the assessment. I'll resend that. And the comparison of giving donation platforms.
Correct. Yeah, and actually I was able to get the assessment. I downloaded that once you gave that other link. But other people may want that, especially who may not have been here today as well.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, I will send that over your way. There's two charts that so again, I'm a little privy to Mobile Cause, but I'm going to send you two links that talk about Mobile Cause. Talk about other potential alternatives as well. So I'll include that in my email to you, Jermaine, so you can share that out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Yes. Yeah, no, we greatly appreciate it.
Great.
I have to, try to keep in mind the folks who didn't come. There's about 2, 3, I'll say 2 definitely, folks who weren't able to, again, and even with Candy not being able to be here that long. Again, folks who are out there, ball rolling and so forth. And I know that fundraising is a question, but of course, like we even mentioned, the need for the board of directors, right? Not just for the sake of having an idea of, getting some help with fundraising, but also for the sake of getting more folks around them that have the ideas, have the connections, the resources, the skills that will be useful for their organization. So I definitely want to emphasize that today, because I know a lot of us are still, one-man bands or one-man band with a couple of other folks who are supporting, but definitely seeing the need for that and the option for that. I think honestly, when you brought it up, I had just really heard about board of directors a few weeks prior to us talking about it. And I was like, yeah, no one had really brought up like that as like a big question of theirs. Like, oh man, I'm trying to figure out the board of directors. And I'm
Yeah.
like, shoot, well, maybe we should talk about it because they may see, oh, well, that would actually help with the other stuff I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. Board development and board of directors is like one of the key fundraising elements to your fundraising strategy. If you don't have a board, it's just you, and you. And and so so important. I didn't realize how significant of an impact it could make to having a really strong board. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's super key. And again, because folks are newer, there was one person that hasn't made it, this wasn't here today, who literally is kind of more so in the ideation phase of things. And so I did want to make sure that she was aware of this as well, because again, I'm sure that especially in our culture, right? The culture predominantly is so individualistic that we can think that, if it's going to be successful, it's because we were able to do it by ourselves. And that reality says, hey, actually in this particular business or sector, there are ways that we can bring people around us, have them on our team and allow them to serve us in a way that really can take our organization to another level when we do that.
Yeah, it's good. Cool. Well, I'm grateful to be a part. I'm going to send this off to you in an email here in a few minutes, Jermaine, and you can share it out. And if there's anything else that I can do to support, please let me know.
Okay, we'll do. We'll definitely keep your number and keep you in the loop.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thanks again, guys. Nice to meet you. And please tell Tamika we missed her signing off, but we wish her well. And I guess we'll be seeing each other real soon.
Yes. Thank you again.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Right.
And then Jermaine, are we staying on for a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see if I can. Okay, cool. Awesome. So yeah, that was one of the one of the connects, one of the friends that I've met throughout this whole journey of life. And again, wanting to serve people, and like I said, she's someone different from Candace, who's been in it for a longer time and has taken her a longer time to get to where she's gotten in terms of the budget, but in terms of the diversity of what her organization does. I love, the numerous aspects that she's really, in some respect, addressing human trafficking. But in some respects, I feel like it's addressing the things that, if you will, contribute to human trafficking, whether it's the conditions, whether it's the culture, it's the circumstances that folks find themselves in that allows them or pushes them to choose that as an option or a route. And so I love that, she doesn't just have a program, but she has a number of programs that are all really coming from one starting place, which is just, how do we help out, help out the girls that are out there, but then maybe even locate them. That becomes a question. Okay, we locate them. Now we got them. If we do it after they look, well, we got to find this. And so again, just the evolution of her program is really dope. And from our last conversations, I honestly, I know it's not over. I feel like there's going to be more iterations to what she's doing. But just like you mentioned, Bobby, coming across her and her organization this time, same here. Honestly, I met her, like I said, her Cisco is in Santa Clara. San Leandro, where she was going to church, or San Lorenzo, I was connecting with her from a church in Emeryville, and I went into Love Never Fails at the DKI event. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And I'm like, oh, and so that's the thing, is it's not even just what city she's in, right? I feel like they're in different cities, right? They're in different places, which is something that I'm sure in time that's what we're probably going to be doing. It's like, yeah, we want to change maybe again this neighborhood. We want to make sure they have this, but there's going to be places where it's like, dude, like we need it over here too. You know, they could use that service over there. And same with you, Bobby, especially with the national kind of perspective you guys have, right? So there's definitely she's definitely someone I know that can offer way more than what she just told us too. So I'm pretty sure we could bring her back for other reasons.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think well, honestly, she asked you guys about takeaways, so that's great, Naya, that she was able to say like, what would you guys get out of it? So we could all use that as well, that information. But yeah, just wanted you guys to be aware of that, the power of the board of directors, especially as it pertains to the fundraising stuff, because that's in some respect, I'm sure, part of the job description. So it's like, yeah, I need your help around figuring out marketing, or need your help around figuring out, you know, this stuff. But also, I'm going to need you to help me figure out how to get the fundraising going, and each person having their own networks, each person having their own means by which they can fundraise. That's definitely going to be essential and impactful, not just in the beginning, but as the organization evolves. You know, I've heard about people being really strategic about like the people that they want, pursuing certain people because of their influence or because of their network. And so that's definitely down the line too, once you get out of the yes phase of board of directors. But I love that she mentioned the terms too, because, you know, some people may feel slighted if they're like the friends and they go, oh man, like, okay, well, they're gonna be the new board of director. They're like, they probably might be upset or offended, you know. But he goes, hey, like I told you, we're gonna do this for 2 years, and then once your term is up, then you're good. And that's gonna be really key for people being able to say, hey, like I agreed for 2 years, I'm done. You have a good day. But you could also be prepared to bring on more people with more skills or whatever once that period concludes. And so yeah, just something that for you guys to take with you as the organization evolves. Yeah. Cool. Also, I know I did order food for us that are here. So that should be here, I would say, in a matter of minutes. But let me see.
Right.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, you could ask. What's up, Bobby?
Yeah, no, I was just saying I'm gonna jump off because I want to make sure I get lunch before we have a workshop at 1:30.
Okay.
So I'm gonna jump off. Is there anything else before I do, like in preparation or anything needing to be done?
We'll have our next one. I believe it's going to be February 1st.
Okay.
I'll actually be out of town starting next Wednesday. Yeah, and so our February 1st will be. I think we're going to do. What's that one called? I think it's going to be around funding, maybe like the funding committee, like she was talking about. And then the 15th is the next one. So, yeah, just be aware of that. But like I said, I'll be sending out text messages, and I'll be trying to do that stuff a little bit more. Just kind of gauging where people are, what's going on. But yeah, just trying to, you know, keep a conversation going amongst us so that we don't kind of lose touch.
All right. Yeah, this was awesome. Another awesome, great class. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah, it was good seeing you, Terrence.
Nice seeing from.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm sure I'll be there next class in person.
Yeah.
Sir, take care of yourself.
All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye. Goodbye, Naya. Goodbye, Jimmy.
All right. Cool. So yeah, I ordered Uber Eats, and I did not see it. But okay, it says estimated arrival is in minutes. But cool. And honestly, had you heard a lot about board director stuff or people in talking about how you should do that or anything?
Just a little bit.
A little
But
bit.
I've been hearing about.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't heard much of it. I was actually bringing it up too because one of the terms that I heard about it, or times I heard about it, was in regard to Twitter, because Elon Musk took over Twitter, and apparently he got rid of like their board of directors. But I remember thinking, oh, I didn't know that businesses had board of directors, right? So it's not just a thing that nonprofit companies have, but as
I
well.
didn't know that either.
Exactly.
All right, man.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so when that came up, it made me ask the question, are they also raising funds? You know, are they also, trying to have money for the company, throughout the years and stuff like that? And I actually imagine that to be true too, because I know that a big part of the for-profit sector is being able to raise funds. And from my understanding, the stock market is a vehicle just for that. When people are buying stock, they're really putting money into the company, and so companies can use that, for their operation. Yeah, definitely fundraising is important, whether it's for profit or nonprofit. And I'm glad that you asked that question about the structure for nonprofit along with the for-profit.
I can set that up.
Yeah, that's a
Great.
good question.
Mhm.
That's a good question. And I'm wondering too, the guy that I'm gonna bring on the first, I know that it's so funny. It's a for-profit company, but whenever I see him, I go, this is a nonprofit. Like the work is nonprofit, but he's like, no, it's for profit because what we do is we take our workshops, we take our things and we do it at, different institutions and agencies. And so it is for profit, but it definitely has all of the feel, the look, of a nonprofit organization. And so definitely trying to think of, and will be actually one other guy that comes to mind. I'm sure you know Damian Posey. I know that he has a nonprofit. I know that he has a for-profit. Nonprofit is Us for Us. For-profit, he does some stuff around cannabis, like a dispensary. And so I am trying to understand and maybe try to look out for that in the next number of weeks. Who can possibly give us that insight, like you said, about the structure of that, and then who helped them to put it together. Yeah,
Right.
because
That'd
that's
be great.
definitely a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, they can go hand in hand.
Right. Yeah, so that
I'm getting back from break.
cool. Yeah, I'm trying to go. Hopefully the food is outside. Yeah. All right. No, because we're gonna start eating now.
Okay.
Yeah, but thanks. Goodbye.